Space Marine 2, a game I've been waiting a really long time for. Since making a video on the first game, which you should definitely check out, I've been consuming as much 40k content as possible in anticipation for the sequel. Oh, praise the God Emperor. So with a little more knowledge and a lot of playtime, I think I'm ready to talk about Space Marine 2. So, grab your power sword, vanquish those dirty Xenos, and let's get into this. Visually and artistically, few games can equal the desolate beauty of Space Marine 2. First thing I noticed right off the bat was just how much of an improvement the visuals are over the first game. And yeah, I know that isn't surprising to anyone since it's been so long, but just look at the difference in visual clarity and detail. Space Marine 2 is utterly gorgeous. In the first game, there were several examples of the visuals not aging well, like pop-in, low-res textures, and certain areas just feeling bland. But in SM2, I never really noticed any of that, which is great considering the amount of objects and models this game renders in a single location. Now we have diverse environments filled with vegetation and highly detailed structures, detailed character designs, and insanely realistic cutscenes. Oh my god, it's gorgeous! If you told 12-year-old me that the sequel was gonna look this good, I just wouldn't believe you. I honestly wouldn't. Performance was also surprisingly good. I didn't run into any technical issues, and I had a pretty steady frame rate throughout my time playing the game. However, there is one thing that performs kinda bad, and that's the game's servers. Yeah, there's no one showing up. It's not even spinning. The plus signs are just there. That's wild. Servers aren't nearly as bad as they were during the 5-day early access. That was just ridiculously awful. But there's still a few issues when it comes to disconnecting and finding PvE lobbies that I hope Saber addresses soon. Alright, let's take a step back from the visuals and the less than ideal servers to talk about the campaign. The story once again puts you in the role of Captain Titus. Oh, sorry, I mean Lieutenant Titus. You see, we've been demoted since our whole accused of heresy thing at the end of the first game, but not after serving in the Death Watch for a measly 200 years, of course. Thank you, Leandros. After the events of the first game, you return with a new squad and a new threat. The Tyranids, a ravenous hive mind species that consumes any and all organic matter in their sight. Titus and the Ultramarines are sent to the Residius system to battle the Tyranid invasion, which serves as the primary driving force behind much of the campaign's action, with battles taking place on devastated worlds. Despite my love of Tyranids, look at these cuties. The most interesting aspect of the campaign's story has to be the continuation of the Project Aurora plotline, something I was praying to see make a return. For those of you who don't know, Project Aurora is a mysterious and dangerous weapon created by the Imperium's Adeptus Mechanicus faction. This project is intended to create a powerful means to banish chaos, the otherworldly corrupting force that some disgusting beta heretics choose over the glorious Chad Emperor of mankind. However, this technology becomes a source of conflict. As the Ultramarines attempt to secure the project, they face interference from the Thousand Suns, a Chaos Space Marine faction loyal to Zeech, the god of sorcery and manipulation. Aside from the Tyranids and Thousand Suns, Titus also faces tension within his own ranks. Like I stated earlier, Titus was suspected of being tainted by chaos after the events of the first Space Marine game, which led to his arrest by the Inquisition, and although he served his time in the Death Watch, there's still mistrust between Titus and his comrades, particularly with the Inquisition. which remains wary of his abilities to resist chaos, the main reason for his demotion from captain to lieutenant. You can tell how all this affected Titus since he was very calm and collected in the first game, but now he's more shouty and agitated. I know I'm making the story sound like something geared towards fans of the original, but honestly, it's written in a way that allows newcomers as well as just fans of 40k to enjoy it, so don't feel pressured to go back and play the original. Though I would still recommend it if you're curious about the Aurora project or the events leading up to Titus serving in the Death Watch. Space Marine 2's story is phenomenal, and although it's kinda short for some people, I found it to be the perfect length, seeing as nothing felt all that rushed. Honestly, my only major complaint has to do with Titus's squad mates, which I do wish they had added a bit more personality to, because they're kind of a downgrade from your previous team. This man was a real one, and I'll never forget this asshole's face. But hey, if you're not too interested in the story, that's okay, because the campaign features fun combat as well as a boss lineup that makes the first games look like a joke. There are 9 bosses in the campaign, well, technically 8 since the Carnifex in the intro mission was scripted, but there's still more variation than the first game's Grim Skull and Chaos Lord. This time around, boss fights actually feel like boss fights. No more quick time events. Instead, we have attack patterns and raw combat. I'm gonna make this short and sweet. These are all the bosses, and this is my favorite. Not only is the lead up to the fight badass, but so is the fight itself. Your arena takes place within the warp where chaos runs free. You have a Chaos Lord flying by with quick attacks, and nothing is more terrifying than seeing one of your co-op buddies disappear into a dark abyss. Brother, it's dark in here. Where are you? Brother? Oh god. Amura was a fantastic final boss that provides a good challenge, and I can't think of any better way to wrap up the campaign. As for the combat, Space Marine 2 takes the already tremendously fun combat from the first game and refines it in a way that makes it utterly fantastic. Combat is articulate and skill-based, meaning you can't exactly just button mash like in the first game, since the melee combat has been completely reworked to a fully developed system with blocking, dodging, and attack combos with light, heavy, and special attacks. I love how every action has so much weight behind it. Swinging your chain sword around, pulling off melee combos, and finishing off Tyranids with a sick gun strike. Though it was a shame to find out that you can no longer carry an arsenal of weapons with you, but weapon and ammo spawns are varied and plentiful, so I didn't find it to be all that big of a deal. The combat is complex enough to keep players more engaged than the original, but doesn't stray too far from its predecessor, which is why we still can slash enemies with a chainsword, then annihilate them with a sick execution. The last campaign related thing I want to talk about for a sec is level design. If I were to describe the game's level design in one word, it would be nostalgic. Space Marine 2 relies on tried and tested ideas and executing them well. This is not a campaign that's pushing the envelope when it comes to level design, but it's one that knows what it wants to be and how to deliver that experience to players. I'm happy that Saber Interactive didn't try to make something crazy like a semi-open world game and instead focused on the most important aspect: making a worthy sequel to a game many people loved. Space Marine 2's campaign may not be a long one, but it's a fun one, and I think the campaign surpasses its predecessor in almost every way. Once you complete the campaign, there's still more content, like the several operations, which are PvE missions parallel to the main story that depict critical events and features another Space Marine team that help Titus in the main story. Contrary to the campaign, here you'll have access to 6 customizable classes, each with its own unique loadout and ultimate skills, as well as different passive perks and weapons to unlock as you gain XP for every operation you clear. This adds loads of replay value to the mode. Not only is this more content than the first game's Horde mode, which will be making its appearance in the sequel sometime in 2025, but it allows players to experiment with different playstyles and weapons. Plus, it offers a good sense of progression. Circling back to customization, there's a lot of improvements the devs made over the first Space Marine game. For starters, the interface for customizing characters has been streamlined, making it easier to navigate and adjust details. Not only that, there's more detailed options for armor, weapons, and insignia. Faction variety got a huge upgrade as well, more than doubling the amount of factions in the first game. I really think Saber went above and beyond with the chapter variety here, because I don't even recognize some of them. Like, who the hell are the Brazen Consuls? Like, what? Naturally, I'm rocking the Blood Angels, Space Wolves, and White Scar chapters for my Astartes, while Chaos is just straight Papa Nurgle, baby. Let's go! Woo! Getting back to operations, there's a decent range of difficulty options for each mission, along with a new, more challenging difficulty called Lethal. So rest assured, the second you think you're good at operations, Saber will be there with a patch to put you in your place. The higher the difficulty, the more loot and XP you will earn for clearing an operation. And thanks to the game's roadmap, we know that the 7 operations currently in the game are just the beginning of what's in store for us. I really love operations. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's where I spent most of my playtime. The additional insight into the events of the campaign are nice, and everything surrounding gameplay and progression just feels like a much better version of Darktide. The final piece of side content SM2 has to offer is Eternal War, a PvP mode that allows players to battle as either loyalists or heretics in 3 game modes, such as Capture and Control, Seize Ground, and Annihilation, all of which are identical to staples within other arcade-style shooters, like God. Just like with operations, you have 6 classes to choose from. However, it's worth mentioning that Eternal War and operations have a separate progression system. So although armor, paints, emblems, and many other cosmetic items transfer over between the 2 modes, everything else is completely separate. When entering a match, only 2 players on the same team can select the same class. In the previous entry, there was no limit, but it's completely understandable why Saber Interactive did this. I mean, can you imagine running over a Capture the Objective, only to turn the corner and be met by 6 enemy heavy bolters? My god, that would be more tragic than the fall of Cadia. It's clear that they're trying to make the PvP balanced, but it honestly feels like all they're doing is changing out which class is the most OP. For a good while, heavies dominated the field, but now I see a lot more people playing assault and ground pounding everywhere. The balancing doesn't ruin Eternal War for me, but it does take a bit away from my enjoyment of it. Eternal War isn't as robust as Operations, there's only 3 maps and 3 modes, but it does have a good foundation for a very engaging PvP. It offers far more than the original had at launch, like 3 additional classes, 1 extra mode, more weapons, and a progression system that doesn't feel slower than the time it takes me to upload a video. I'm sorry. Let's just hope Dreadnaught Assault will make its return in the near future. Come on, Saber, I want to pilot that Dreadnaught, please. In conclusion, Space Marine 2 surpasses its predecessor in nearly every aspect. And while the game currently suffers from rocky servers and limited PvP content, Space Marine 2 offers a phenomenal campaign, an operations mode that provides loads of replay value, and Eternal War, a PvP mode that was overall better than I expected. I waited a really long time for this game, and after playing around 80 hours, I can safely say it was well worth the wait, making Space Marine 2 a worthy sequel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, why not consider dropping a like, subscribing, and let me know in the comments what you think of Space Marine 2. I've been rezoraptor, and I'll see you guys next time when we take a look at one of the most hated Halo games in the series. I'll see you guys next time. Peace!